My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC 294 fight card, giving you my picks, my predictions, and my bets. But before I do, let me give you $50. The only thing you need to do to get this money is go to wewantpicks.com/bets, sign up with any one of our partners, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. So you're going to go to the site, you're going to use our link, you're going to sign up, you're going to make an account, you're going to make a deposit. They're going to pay us as a thanks for bringing us this customer, and then I'm going to slice off some of that money, and I'm going to send it right back to you. wewantpicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. We send you $50. You can use that $50 to become a premium member. One of the many features of premium membership is the safety parlay. UFC Vegas 81 was a weird card, to say the least, but the safety parlay shined supreme. I gave you two different safety parlays for UFC Vegas 81. I gave you the base, which is two components, and then I gave you a third leg. The way I treat that is two different parlays. They both hit. The 3-leg parlay hit, the 2-leg parlay hit. So that did really well all time. We've been doing the safety parlay for 11 months, less than a full year. All time, it's up 19.7 units, and that averages out to 1.78 units of net profit every single month for the safety parlay. This is a premium member only thing. The UFC 294 safety parlay is up now if you want to check that out. It's only a 2-leg. I may add a third leg. This should be a pretty parlay heavy card, but premium membership is way more than just copy paste a couple of bets. You're also going to get tools. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you opening odds, current odds, win probability, and line movement for every single fighter on every single card. This card specifically, only one single fighter went from underdog to favorite, and that is Trevor Peak. But we do have good amount of movement. 6 fighters have had 20% line movement or more. You can use that to sort of hop on a spot, to hop off a spot, see where the money's going, see what the trends are doing, and see if that's something that you want to follow or avoid. You're also going to get detailed data, metrics, and analytics. This is going to give you the fighter's bio information, like their reach, their weight, their height, their age. You're going to get all of the striking data, how many they're landing, how many they're getting hit with, their grappling data, how often they're getting taken down, how often they're taking down other people. You're going to get the odds for the individual prop bets. So you can just work your way across, identify spots, see where the odds are maybe out of line with the data, and then you can hop on. Again, premium membership is about the tools, the information. Yes, you're going to see what I'm spending my money on, what Jacob's spending his money on. We have 5 different people giving you picks and bets and insight. We're also going to give you tools. Teach a man to fish. Another one of those tools is the DraftKings Optimizer. If you play DraftKings Fantasy, this is a beautiful giant calculator. And what this does is it takes all the data and it factors that in and it builds lineups for you. You then take those lineups, you play DraftKings Fantasy, and you win money. Our community has won almost $400,000 playing DraftKings Fantasy in the last 4 months alone. You're also going to get courses. If you just said, what the hell is DraftKings Fantasy? What is he talking about? Well, we will teach you. Log in on the menu, click more, and then courses, and we have a full course walking you through what DraftKings Fantasy even is, how you can do it, how you can have some fun, how you can make some money playing. And again, it is more than just this beautiful face and ginger red Jacob. You're also going to get Running Mouth MMA. There's 3 of them giving you picks and bets. You're going to get Artem. He's not only going to give you UFC picks and bets and information, he's going to give you LFA, PFL, and all the regional shows as well. And then we have the Pick Doctor, which is an AI picking fights based solely off of data. And last but not least, we do have a P.O. box where you can mail whatever you want to mail. Hate letters, t-shirts, love notes, whatever you want to send. We will open them up either on stream or in the vlogs, but they will be open blind. We're not going to know what's in them. We're going to open them. You're going to get our very real reactions. Here's the address if you want to send something. Let's go ahead and break down this card. UFC 294 was a monster card. It lost the main event and the co-main event. I can't remember the last time that a main and co-main both dropped on a major pay-per-view, but I would argue that the replaced fights are almost better than the original ones. I think Islam was just going to smoke Charles Oliveira again the exact same way, take him down, beat him up. So I wouldn't mind this rematch. A lot of people think that Islam lost that first fight, so a rematch should be interesting. And I think this co-main event is better than the previous one. Paulo Costa, big, strong guy, but I don't think he was going to be able to beat Khamzat Chimaev, but Usman may. Let's go ahead and break all of these down. Opening up the UFC 294 fight card, we have Bruno Silva taking on Sharabutdin. This is going to be a banger. We have two big boy strikers that want to stand there and bang. Bruno Silva, as we all know, is a fantastic striker. He does have some solid BJJ as well. He can absolutely knock your head off at any moment. Or he can implement a grapple-heavy game plan. He managed to take down Alex Pereira twice in that decision loss, and that was just a couple of fights ago. And although he does have great hands and he does hit like a truck, he is also hittable himself. You can see he has a negative striking differential here. He's coming off that first round loss to Brendan Allen where he was dropped and then submitted. He's taking on Nurmagomedov, UFC newcomer. This guy looks like a wild-ass dude. He's missing teeth. He only has one eye, and it's looking east. The good eye's looking west. He's got the haircut of a homeless person. And he doesn't just look wild. He fights wild as well. He has 11 fights with 10 knockout wins. He's an accomplished striker. He's been competing in multiple martial arts since he was a teenager. He's insanely powerful. He's very fast. He's going to mix up those striking techniques. His takedown defense is solid, but he does a really good job making you pay for those entries. If you take a shot, he's going to light you up. You're going to feel it, and you're going to question if you want to do that again. His takedown offense, however, is pretty terrible. He is a Dagestani. Do not expect this guy to wrestle. He is not going to. He is all striker. He's a massive prospect. I think he's going to be the next big thing. I'm very confident in Shara here. Of course, Bruno packs a punch. He's always going to be live for a knockout, but after getting dropped by Brendan Allen, Brendan Allen's fantastic, but Brendan Allen's not one-punch knockout kind of guy. After getting dropped by Brendan Allen, there's just no way we can trust Bruno's chin against somebody like Shara. Shara by KO, probably a very solid bet. I think he's great to parlay. I do have some action with him in it now. I've got a couple of parlays going with Shara. I think he's very, very confident, and we'll walk through some of the other pieces of that parlay. Then we have Jinh Frey taking on Victoria Dudakova. Jinh Frey, she's a little older, but she is a very experienced fighter. She's very technical. She's very patient. For the most part, she wants to pressure forward with her punches, with her activity, and then that's going to try to set up her wrestling or her cage control if she can't get you fully to the ground. She is a heavy grappler. She does use her size, her strength, and her physicality pretty well. Unfortunately, she is on a bit of a skid here. 3 losses in a row. That most recent was to Elise Reed, where even though she had 3 takedowns, she still couldn't win that decision. She's taking on Victoria Dudakova. She's a very exciting fighter. She's going to come across the cage, let her hands fly, and then either keep that striking distance or work in some grappling. Her striking is clean and powerful. Her BJJ is very slick. You're going to find tape of her shooting blast doubles as well as defending takedowns and firing away. She's very impressive this early in her MMA career, right? She's only got 7 fights. And if she's built the right way, she can be a star. She's coming off that freak injury win over Estela Nunes, where she shot a takedown, was getting the takedown, Estela braced, and then boom, her arm snapped in half. The odds do not think this is a close fight. These odds have it as a blowout, right? 4-1 for Victoria Dudakova. Victoria is relatively untested, whereas Jinh Frey is a tried and true entity. She is older. She's going to be a little slower. She's definitely on the decline here, but if her takedown defense holds up and she can get some takedowns of her own with a little bit of control time, how is Victoria going to win this fight? How? At almost 4-1 odds, this feels like a wild trap. I'm still going to pick Victoria Dudakova because at 38 years old, Jinh Frey was knocked out a couple of fights ago. She's losing decisions. Like, Victoria is young. She's going to come forward. She's going to be a little reckless. Her takedowns are not the best, but she's going to pressure. She's going to fight. She's going to stay in your face. I am picking her for those reasons. But Jinh Frey, if her chin holds up, which it should, it historically has, if she defends a few of these takedowns, gets a few of her own like she did against Elise Reed, we might see Victoria panic a little bit, not react the way a veteran should react because she's not a veteran yet. So Victoria's going to be the pick. Pretty low confidence in that. And when these props drop, I may do a plus 3.5 on Jinh Frey, which all that means is she needs to win 1 round on all 3 judges' scorecards. So if she wins the fight outright, you get paid. If she wins a split or loses a split decision, you get paid. And if she loses at 29-28 across the board, you get paid. So I may look at that at 4-1 odds on the money line. That plus 3.5 or betting the spread, as we would say, might still be plus 200, plus 250. So we'll see what that looks like when those props drop. If you are a premium member, make sure your alerts are turned on in the Discord so you can get that notification on your phone. If it's something that you like, you can jump on it. If not, who cares? You move on, but at least you're not going to miss out on the notification and miss out on that line. If you're not a premium member, go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It's freaking $10. It's $10 a month. and you're going to get everything that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. Then we have a surprisingly early on the card slot for a prospect like Nathaniel Wood, and he's taking on Mohammad Naimov. Nathaniel Wood's a very good striker. He's got solid power, great dirty boxing. He can grapple as well. He's got 7 takedowns in 9 UFC fights and submissions in 3 of them. He has slick upper body takedowns and great control on the ground. He's got great volume with more than 6 significant strikes landed per minute and an impressive 76% takedown defense. He's coming off that war, an incredible war with Andre Fili, where they both had knockdowns, but Nathaniel had the volume and had a takedown to get it going. He's taking on Mohammad Naimov. If you're doing some of your own research, he may be listed as Mohammedan Naimov. He's a well-rounded guy. He prefers to strike. He can wrestle when he needs to. He's fast. He's athletic. Old school martial arts striking background. Right? He likes to plot forward, throw in combinations. If he closes that distance, he is going to clinch up and then strike from there. He will actively defend takedowns early because he does trust his striking, but he does look to take you down if he's on the wrong side of some of these exchanges. His takedown defense is solid, and so is his offense. He's coming off that short notice upset win over Jamie Mullarkey, where he was losing that fight. He was taken down 3 times, but then he ended up landing that big power in the second round. Naimov can definitely play spoiler again. With the power that he has in his hands, with some of those wrestling techniques, he can definitely play spoiler, but I do trust Nathaniel Wood. Getting dropped and being in that war with Andre Fili actually makes me more confident in him. We know he can now withstand a big shot, and he's not going to quit. He has takedowns if he needs them, and despite having solid takedown defense on the regional scene, we just haven't seen that yet here from Naimov. I don't love these odds at 3-1 because I am worried about the power of Naimov, and we don't know just how good he's going to look at 145 pounds with a full camp, because that Jamie Mullarkey fight was 155 where he was losing. But Wood's going to be the pick here. I think these less risky spots on this card to bet. I've got 4 parlays already on this card. Nathaniel Wood is not in any of them. Then we have Mike Breeden taking on Anshul Jubli. Anshul Jubli is a very well-rounded fighter. He's got solid striking, solid grappling as well. He does a great job exploding in his takedowns. So even if he wasn't a perfect shot, he didn't have the best entry, he's so fast that a lot of people don't even have time to sprawl or adjust their hips, and he'll still get that takedown. He's not amazing anywhere, but he is very good everywhere. He's got solid fight IQ and good enough cardio to continue pushing forward the whole time. He's coming off that TKO win over Jekka Saragai. He's taking on Mike Breeden. The UFC seems to love to give Mike Breeden to what they think are prospects. Mike Breeden is a decent striker. He's got solid range control, good variety. He has some power in his hands, but not enough to steal a fight late in the rounds. He's more of a volume guy that's always throwing something. He has okay takedown defense, but his get-up game is very solid. So even when he is taken down, he pops right back up and he stays in that fight. Unfortunately for him, though, he is 0-3 in the UFC, with that most recent one being a first-round knockout loss to Terrence McKinney. I don't think Anshul Jubli is a minus 400 fighter. That's what the odds are now. If you're new to odds, that basically means you would have to spend $400 to win 100. So 4-1 favorite. I don't think he's that guy. I do think he should be the favorite here. We watched Breeden get taken down 9 times by Natan Levy, and I think Jubli can do more of the same. Breeden is tough. He's got a good get-up game, but I think the constant pressure and takedowns are going to be a bit much for him here. So Jubli is the pick in this fight. Potential fade in the future. I'm confident in him here. Not sure if I'm going to take those 4-1 odds, though. Then we have Abu Azaitar taking on Sedriques Dumas, or SD Dumas. And Sedriques Dumas is famously a street fighter. He worked his way out of the streets and into an octagon. His street fighting background might imply that he's just a wild brawler or only a striker, but he's actually pretty well-rounded. He's got some decent takedowns, solid kickboxing. He uses techniques really well. He can be powerful, and while breaking down tape, you'll see him pick up and slam more than one opponent. He has nice kickboxing. He uses leg kicks really well to take away your balance. He is coming off his first UFC win over Cody Brundage, where he was taken down very, very easily, but he was able to capitalize on a whole bunch of Cody Brundage mistakes. You're not going to recognize the name Abu Azaitar, or you may not, but this is actually Abu's 3rd fight in the UFC. He has been incredibly inactive, with his first fight being over 2.5 years ago. He's a big guy for the weight class, very well-rounded, but at 37 with a lack of activity, he has turned into pretty much a come-forward brawler. He's going to march forward. He's going to throw everything with power. He's going to look for a finish. The fight with Marc-Andre Barrault was not the prettiest, but he did showcase his grit, his willingness to pressure forward, and he just threw absolute bombs. If Abu wasn't 37 years old and coming back after a few years away, I would mortgage my house and I would bet everything on him. He is tough. He comes forward. He's powerful. And more importantly, SD Dumas is not that guy, at least not yet. Josh Freem smoked SD Dumas. He absolutely worked him. Cody Brundage was going to work him, but somehow was possessed by an idiot and then just started making terrible decisions and just gave that fight away. I actually expect SD to be the more accurate striker here, but I love Abu's just good old-fashioned grit and pressure. He can wrestle as well, and we know for a fact SD Dumas gets taken down very easily. I fully recognize the age gap. The layoff is a red flag, but I am going to pick Abu to win here. You can probably expect a bet from me at some point on him. I'm just monitoring that line movement tracker we talked about earlier to see if I can get better odds than plus 145. If you don't know what the line movement tracker is, it is a premium member tool. We have a ton of tools for premium members. It is one of them. It's going to give you the opening odds for every single fighter on the card, the current odds for every single fighter on the card, how those odds equate to win probability, and then the line movement. So you'll be able to see, oh, Abu opened at plus 170. He's now plus 145. This is tightening. I better place a bet on him before this gets away from me. Or in this case, actually the other direction. Abu is becoming a larger underdog. I think he's going to win, so I'm going to keep an eye on that. And once it seems to peak or come back down a little bit, then I'll go ahead and place my bet because I want the most amount of value possible. If you want to unlock that and a lot more, WeWantPicks.com, just click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month. Then we have Javid Basharat taking on Victor Henry. And Javid Basharat is a grappler. He has incredible offensive and defensive wrestling. He has absolutely no problems with a kickboxing match either, and is landing almost 6 significant strikes per minute and being hit with fewer than 3. We have seen him out-grapple and outstrike his opponents with little resistance. He's coming off that dominant win over Mataus Mendonça, where he did give up 2 takedowns, but he also had 2 of his own and almost quadrupled the strikes. Victor Henry is a fun come-forward striker with a wide variety of attacks. He likes to plot forward, use his head movement, and avoid punches and throw literally everything. At range, he's going to throw head kicks, but if he is inside the pocket, he's going to throw elbows and knees. He has a ton of a variety, and he mixes it together really nicely. He's coming off that bounce-back split decision win over Tony Gravely, where he gave up 3 takedowns, but he did dominate the striking. And listen, I think Javid dominates this fight. I think he absolutely dominates this fight. He's probably safe to parlay. I think he can out-wrestle the crap out of Victor Henry here. And with that being said, Victor did beat Hani Barcelos. So I think Javid's going to win. I think Javid's going to out-wrestle Victor. But if we look at Victor's fight history, he showed up and he beat a 5-time Brazilian national champion wrestler. That does worry me a bit. And it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world if he somehow did that again. But I don't see that happening here. I think Javid strikes for a little bit, then he gets his wrestling going. I think he's got solid timing, plenty of control. I don't expect him to get hung up. And while Javid may not be the most powerful striker, I think the accuracy, the busyness, the way he flows from striking to grappling is going to be far too much for Victor Henry. And I do have Javid in parlays as well. You could parlay him with some of the earlier favorites that I mentioned on this card. Then we have Trevor Peek taking on Mohammad Yahya. Mohammad Yahya making his UFC debut. He is a patient striker. He stands tall. He keeps his hands low. He has a traditional martial arts stance, so it's going to be nice and wide. He's going to bounce in and out of range. He has a solid chin, and while he does like to plot forward, he doesn't throw very much. He's a little bit gun-shy. He can be low volume at times. He does have power, though, but he can find himself hunting for it in fights. If he felt like he connected, now all of a sudden that's the only thing he's focused on is trying to knock you out. He doesn't have much in the way of wrestling offense, but he will look to hold you against the cage if he's losing exchanges. He's taking on Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek's a high-pressure fighter who only has one pace. He keeps his hands open, literally just starts winging punches while charging forward. If he is close, he will try to grab your legs and take you down. If he's at distance, he's going to move in all directions and try to work his way in. He's not very technical. Skill-wise, he's not clean at all, but he's high pressure. He's got that take one to give one style, and he can break a lot of people. He is coming off that loss, though, to Chepe Mariscal, where he showcased his chin and his toughness, but also the fact that he just has zero takedown defense, no hips whatsoever. And when I saw that Trevor Peek was fighting a 12-3 guy, right? I looked at Tapology. I did everything that you guys do when I start this. And I saw that the line was even. I'm like, Trevor Peek is fighting a dude with 12 wins and only 3 losses, and it's basically even money. I was about to bet everything on the other guy. Literally everything on the other guy. Mohammad. Trevor Peek borderline sucks. He was exposed for being all heart and no skill in that Chepe fight. But then I did my research, and I was here while doing the research. I did it the wrong way, right? I started with the end, and then I tried to let the research justify that for me. In my mind, I was like, Yahya smokes Trevor Peek. Let me find the footage of him getting a half a takedown at any point, and we'll be good. And I was looking for that. And that's not how you should do research, right? You should go in having no clue, doesn't matter. I don't know who's going to win. Let the tape tell the story. I did it backwards. I couldn't find the end. I could not find my story. I wanted to find tape of Yahya getting a couple of takedowns so that I could say, yep, he smokes Trevor Peek, and I couldn't find it. So now all of a sudden, it's like, damn it, I think Trevor Peek's going to win this fight. Because while watching that tape, Yahya gets cracked. He doesn't wrestle well enough for me to, go ahead and pick him and think that he can grind that out. He gets hit way too often and way too hard for me to think that he's going to come in here and knock out Trevor Peek, who has a granite chin. So now we have a dude that gets hit and doesn't wrestle, fighting a guy with an iron chin that's just going to march forward, bomb away, and not quit on anything. So Trevor Peek's going to be the pick. He has had the biggest line movement on this card. He opened as a big-time underdog. He is currently the small favorite, and that might continue to take off. What is odd here is Muhammad Yahya is the local guy, literally the local guy. Not just like, from that region. No, he's literally the local guy fighting out of Abu Dhabi. So we'll see what happens. This line might do some crazy stuff because of that. But, Trevor Peek's going to, unfortunately, Trevor Peek is going to win this fight. Actually, I don't have a problem with him winning the fight. I was just hoping he was going to be an awesome fade here because he's not very good. But he doesn't need to be very good to win this fight. He just needs to be tough and come forward, which is what he's going to do. Then we have grit. Good old-fashioned grit in Tim Elliott taking on Muhammad Mokaev. And Tim Elliott is gritty. He's the definition of grit. He's going to come forward. He's going to make every single fight dirty. He puts on a ton of pressure, has tons of volume. He's going to stay in your face the entire time, even if he's on the wrong side of the exchanges. His striking is not technical, but it can be effective for him because of that movement. His best asset is definitely his grappling. He moves really well on the ground and has submissions from everywhere. He's coming off that win over Victor Altamirano, where he had nonstop wrestling, but he did finally start to fade a little bit. He's taking on Muhammad Mokaev. This guy, huge prospect. He's an incredible wrestler, and even though he's only listed at 9-0, he had an unreasonably long and successful amateur career. He is a very dominant wrestler who has great grappling and improved striking. He has 4 fights in the UFC with 22 takedowns. He's coming off that submission win over Jafo Filo, where it's a miracle that Muhammad Mokaev is even walking to this day because Jafo had a knee bar in that literally Muhammad's knee was bent the wrong way. It was absolutely insane. And Muhammad Mokaev, at some point in time, is going to be a phenomenal fade. I just don't know if it's this fight. On paper, Mokaev is dominant, right? He submitted Jafo Filio. He submitted Jared Gordon. He submitted Cody Durden. But if you watch those fights, you'll see that they're not necessarily what they seem to be on paper. Gordon is 78 years old, and he had Mokaev in a little bit of trouble more than once in that fight. Cody Durden took down Mokaev instantly, and as I mentioned, Jafo Filio had Mokaev's knee pointing in the wrong direction. The most worrisome stat here, if you're on the Muhammad Mokaev side, is the 0% takedown defense. He has yet to defend a single takedown in the UFC, and somebody like Tim Elliott is absolutely going to test that. I'm still going to pick Mokaev, because I do believe in his offensive wrestling, and Tim is just a ripe 36 years old. He's starting to fade a little bit. We saw him get a little tired in his last fight, which is not normally like him. But I'm going to stay away from this because at some point, Muhammad Mokaev is going to get smoked. I don't know if it's this fight, but Tim Elliott's the type of guy. What did we just see? We just saw Darren Elkins beat the crap out of TJ Brown. And Mohammad Mokaev is not TJ Brown, but it could be a similar story. You need Mokaev to get his wrestling going early. And if Tim Elliott doesn't care and doesn't wait and he comes forward with his wrestling, all of a sudden Mohammad Mokaev is going to be very, very uncomfortable. So Mokaev's going to be the pick. I'm going to fade the bet though. Then we have the main card opener. We have Said Nurmagomedov taking on Muin Gafurov. Said Nurmagomedov is a flashy striker. He uses his length really well. He keeps range. He's dangerous both in and out of the pocket. He can literally throw kicks to your head while standing only a few feet in front of you. His striking is versatile. His takedown defense is solid at 65%. And as a reminder, I do this every time I break him down. You're going to see the last name. You're going to assume he's a wrestler. He is not a wrestler. He's not that type of Nurmagomedov. He is a striker, and he's coming off that questionable loss to Jonathan Martinez, where he landed more strikes, and he actually did get 3 takedowns. He's taking on Muin Gafurov. This guy is a wrestler, nonstop wrestler. He's going to plant his feet, trade punch for punch with anybody, and then start to wrestle. He's incredibly exciting, high-paced guy, solid skills everywhere. He does have power in his hands. Very good wrestling, solid speed, solid cardio, but he does get sucked into brawls. He loses complete control of situations. He's going to swing wild, and then at points, all of a sudden it's a 50-50 fight, whether he's going to get dropped or drop his opponent. Either way, Muin Gafurov is an exciting guy. He's coming off that short notice loss to John Castaneda, where he was throwing heavy. He was pushing forward. He took a lot of shots, but none of them were great. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I wanted to pick Muin here. This dude is an absolute savage. But he can also be picked apart, and I think that's exactly what Said's going to do. But before we get too high on Said, let's not forget that Sayod Yakub Kakramanov, the guy that was cut, even though he had a phenomenal UFC record, was beating the absolute piss out of Said Nurmagomedov. He took him down 5 times. He was dominating every second of that entire fight until he got caught in a guillotine. That exact same thing could happen here with Muin's wrestling, but I just don't think I can trust him to wrestle. I think he can get sucked into a brawl, and then if that's the case, Said's going to take it. If Muin can't close the distance or he's shooting from too far away like he was with John Castaneda, he's going to get picked apart. He's going to lose. So Said Nurmagomedov's going to be the pick here. But again, this is another fight that could just be sort of a trap because there is a very clear path to beat Said, and we watched Kakramanov do it. And if Muin with a full camp, remember that loss, this UFC debut loss, that was short notice. Muin with a full camp, watching the fight tape, might see the same thing I saw and everybody else and say, hey, let me just come forward, wrestle this guy, keep my chin down, my elbows in, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to fade this fight, but I do think Said is going to win it. Then we have Ikram Aliskerov taking on Warlley Alves. Ikram Aliskerov is a Russian wrestler. He does exactly what you think a Russian wrestler in the UFC would do. Non-stop wrestling pressure, constant body locks. He's going to tie you up, shoot shots. When he gets you to the ground, he is like an 8th layer of skin, meaning he's impossible to shake. He leaves no room for scrambles or escapes. His striking is decent. It's not amazing, but it is pretty good. He's got a nice high guard, long kicks, the occasional flying knee. He is coming off that knockout win over Phil Hawes, but he was losing that fight. He was losing every single one of those striking exchanges. He attempted 0 takedowns whatsoever, and then he landed that one big clean punch. He's taking on Warlley Alves. Warlley Alves is stepping up on somewhat short notice here. He's a guy who has a BJJ black belt, but he's going to want to strike. He's going to throw wild. He's going to get caught into that. It might use it to set up some takedowns. And then his BJJ. His takedowns are not the best, but his BJJ is very good and it is aggressive. He has jumped guillotine more than once, and he's had mixed success with that. Even though he isn't technical on his feet, he is dangerous, and he's always hunting for a knockout. He just bombs away looking for a finish. He's coming off that close loss to Nicholas Dalby, where he looked explosive, but he only threw 1 strike at a time. He never strung together any combinations, and he did slow down. As I mentioned, Ikram was getting pieced up by Phil. He was getting pieced up by Phil Hawes before he got that knockout. Normally, I would use something like that, and I would say, go watch the tape. This line is too wide. Like, that's normally what I would say, but not here. Ikram is very good. He was preparing for a very good striker in this original matchup. And at the end of the day, he's already a beast of a wrestler. So if he avoids a slugfest, he can control the striking and win the wrestling. Alves has cardio issues with a full camp. Short notice isn't going to do him any favors. Ikram's the pick. I have him in parlays as well. I think he's pretty safe to do that with. Then we have the featured fight of the evening. We have Magomed Ankalaev coming off his draw with Jan Blachowicz taking on Johnny Walker. Magomed Ankalaev is a long kickboxer. He uses range really well. He's got some devastating kicks. He has power in both his hands and his feet. He is very versatile in his attack style. He's got striking defense, but he can be low volume. If he gets in trouble striking, he does have wrestling as a backup plan, averaging about 1 takedown per 15 minutes of fight. He has one single loss on his record and in the UFC. It was literally a last-second submission loss to Paul Craig in his UFC debut. He's not the most exciting guy, but he is likely the best light heavyweight in the division. He's coming off that draw to Jan Blachowicz where he had 2 takedowns, the better striking stats, but he was getting his leg absolutely chewed up. He's taking on Johnny Walker. This guy is a big, athletic light heavyweight. He is 6'6". He's massive. He's fast. He's powerful. He's athletic. And he's wild. He's fun to watch. He gets very creative with his striking as well. He's going to spin. He's going to jump. He's going to do it all with a smile the entire time. He's very unorthodox and very dangerous because all of his crazy striking techniques have legit power behind them. He did seem to struggle a bit in the late 2021, early 2022 after he went to that SBG Ireland gym. But he is currently riding a 3-fight win streak, and he has looked fantastic. He's coming off that dominant win over Anthony Smith, where he landed a lot of leg kicks early, basically had Anthony out of that fight in the first round. But he did get a little gun shy as the fight went on, but he stayed measured, kept his power, and kept his cardio. I fully believe that skill for skill, technique for technique, Ankalaev is one of the best light heavyweights on the planet. If Johnny tried to fight a technical fight, he's going to get smoked. But as I have said many times, that old adage is you box a brawler and you brawl a boxer, meaning you don't try to suit the other person in their style, you make it your fight. So if Johnny Walker wants to brawl the boxer, make this an ugly, dirty, nasty fight where he is spinning, jumping, kicking, doing all sorts of different things that Magomed is not ready for because he wants a nice, clean, rangy fight, all of a sudden, Johnny Walker can have success. He's massive. He hits hard. He's insanely athletic. But if he takes his time and he tries to be patient and he tries to go technique for technique with Ankalaev, he's absolutely going to get smoked. I think it's literally that simple. Pick-wise, I'm going to go with Ankalaev here, right? He's very good at slowing the pace. He's very good at getting people to fight his fight. And I think he does that here. I think he earns himself a title shot after this. I think he beats the winner of Pereira or Jiri Prochazka, and he becomes the champion. So Magomed Ankalaev, I think he's another safe bet. And these cards are usually stacked that way. So the key here is find who the landmines are. I don't think Ankalaev is the landmine, but Johnny Walker certainly has the ability to be the spoiler for the UFC's plans. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. This is obviously a last-minute switcheroo. It was supposed to be Paulo Costa. He's gone. Somebody let me know in the comment section what actually happened. From what I have derived, Paulo Costa had elbow surgery 5 weeks ago, just told everybody about it right now, and then the fight got canceled now. I actually don't know what the chain of events was. He didn't get the elbow injury now. He already had the surgery. He was posting video of him training and like, oh, look how well I've recovered. And then the fight was canceled. So I don't know what the hell happened with Paulo Costa, but he was supposed to fight Khamzat Chimaev. Paulo Costa's out. Kamaru Usman steps up on short notice. This is at middleweight, so I don't know if weight cutting is going to be an issue. But now we have the second greatest welterweight of all time taking on one of the most hyped prospects we've seen in a while. Kamaru Usman, as I mentioned, depending on how you rank GSP, he's either the second best or the best welterweight of all time, right? It really comes down to how you rank GSP and if you factor in their opponents and their opponents' skill levels. Either way, Kamaru's an accomplished wrestler. He steadily has improved his striking over time. We've seen power, like when he knocked out Masvidal. We've seen volume, like in his Covington fights. He has beat every single person in this division, including Leon, who he just lost to. He has 17 fights in the UFC with 59 takedowns and 6 title defenses. He's coming off back-to-back losses to Leon Edwards, where frankly, he won 90% of the first fight until he got knocked out at the end, and he was taken down in the first round. And I thought he won the second fight, but either way, back-to-back losses to Leon Edwards. He's taking on Khamzat Chimaev. This guy was already on the card, full training camp. He was the one ready to go. He's a polarizing guy. A lot of people want to talk about him as if he's not human. All the stories we hear from training are wild. We hear about his work ethic, his wrestling, his ability to dominate fighters wherever they go. In execution, we have seen the wrestling. We have seen the one-punch power. We have also seen him struggle a bit with people who don't care. People who just come forward, like Gilbert Burns. I don't give an F. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to throw at you. He struggled a little bit with Gilbert Burns. The reality is that it seems as though Khamzat can take down anybody he wants to, whenever he wants to, and he is seemingly impossible to take down. He is willing to strike, but he isn't the most technical. He's coming off that first-round submission over Kevin Holland, where he missed weight and he flipped that whole card on its head. This is an interesting fight to break down. I am more excited for this fight than I was when it was Paulo Costa, because full camp, if this was a few years ago and Kamaru Usman had a full camp, I actually would pick Kamaru Usman here. He has hours worth of cardio. He's probably the better striker in this match. If Gilbert Burns is the better striker, I think Kamaru Usman's the better striker as well. And he's going to be the best wrestler we have ever seen Chimaev fight. He handled Kobe's wrestling pressure twice, and he has only been taken down once in his UFC career. That was against Leon Edwards, which frankly, I think he was just caught off guard. He wasn't expecting it. But then he got knocked out pretty devastatingly. And it was been a few years, a couple of short notice Usman, after a couple of drag him out wars, like all of a sudden these circumstances are very different than the peak Kamaru Usman we knew just a few years ago. I think a short notice Usman coming up in weight to fight on the other side of a planet in a 3-round fight where his cardio is not even going to benefit him against a monster wrestler. I think it's just too much working against him here. I am very excited to see what happens when Kamaru shoots. I hope he shoots. We're going to find out about Khamzat's takedown defense. We're going to find out about his scramble skills. I want to see that because we haven't seen it yet. We've seen him easily defend takedowns. I want to see him in a little bit of a dogfight with the grappling to find out how good Khamzat actually is. I'm also hoping Khamzat is not a head case. He's been off for a while, and Dana's been like, yeah, he's got some stuff going on. All of a sudden, this guy might be like just nuts in the head, not ready to go, and then we know, whether you love him or hate him, we know for a fact Kamaru Usman shows up, ready to go, prepared. When he loses fights, it's not because he made mistakes. This guy is laser focused on what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, and he's going to come forward. He's going to try to execute. I think this is a fantastic fight. I do think Chimaev wins this fight. I just think Usman at 36, up in weight, as I mentioned, the travel. There's just too many things working against him. But this is a great co-main event, and I am looking forward to it. And then we have the main event of the evening. This is also a switcheroo. Islam Makhachev was supposed to get a rematch against Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira's out. He dropped. I forget what. I think he got a bad cut. And now he's taking on Alexander Volkanovski. This is also a rematch, but I'm looking forward to it. I think this is a better fight because, frankly, Volkanovski, a lot of people are going to argue he won the first fight, where Islam absolutely steamrolled Charles Oliveira in their first fight, and I think that was going to be more of the same. Either way, we have Islam Makhachev defending the 155-pound belt. You see the picture here with Volk holding his belt. That's just because he's the 45-pound champion. His belt is not on the line. Islam Makhachev, as we know, is an insane wrestler. Very good hands as well. His grappling is aggressive. He's always looking to advance, to punish, or to finish. He doesn't just camp out looking for a decision win. He does have a lot of decisions, but he is trying to work in the finishes. He averages more than 3 takedowns per fight, and you might think that's low, right? We've broken down a lot of people, like Mohammad Mokaev earlier, that average way more than that, but all that really does is tell you how good Islam's control is. He's the type of guy that he takes you down, you are staying down. He keeps you on the ground, he racks up control while looking for a finish. When he takes you down, you don't get back up. He's coming off that title win over Alex Volkanovski. This is his last fight, where it was a lot closer than a lot of people thought it was going to be. Alexander Volkanovski is in the conversation for the best pound-for-pound fighters we've ever seen, or at least one of them. He's destroyed every single featherweight they have ever given him, and a lot of people think he won this belt, that he already beat Islam the first time they fought. He's got takedowns, he's got striking, grappling, cardio, very solid fight IQ, and he's just building an all-time legacy for himself. He lands more than 6 significant strikes per minute and averages almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is just a testament to how well-rounded he is. He's coming off the absolute destruction of Yair Rodriguez to defend his featherweight belt for the 5th time. I've mentioned 11 times, this is a rematch. I personally thought Islam won, and he did win. He literally won, but a lot of people want to argue that Volk won. I think Islam won this fight, but let me talk you through the stats of their first fight. And remember, going into that fight, the narrative that Volk is just a tiny little man, he wouldn't be able to handle the size and the wrestling of Islam. So that was the narrative. In their first fight, there was only one recorded knockdown, and that came from Volk. Volk also had 164 strikes to Islam's 95. Volk also defended 5 of Islam's 9 takedown attempts and had 3 minutes of control time to Islam's 7.5. So the reality is that was a very close fight. I don't think this one will be, though. After accepting this fight, Volk literally went on record of saying he's coming directly off the couch. He's like, I'm not training. Like, obviously, I'm working out. I'm going to the gym. But I'm not in a camp. I wasn't prepared to fight for a while. So he was not ready. He's literally coming off the couch. I do always expect a guy like him to be in shape. But I think Islam is going to be all in on the wrestling this time around. We're going to see Volk tired probably for the first time ever in his career. And this is just, obviously, I'm making wild assumptions here. In my mind, their first fight, Islam took Alex a little too lightly, and he was surprised by how tough and how skilled Volk is. And I think he's going to make all the adjustments. There are no adjustments for Alexander Volkanovski to make. He fought a perfect fight. He fought that fight absolutely perfectly. So I don't know what he would change. If you're Volkanovski's coach, what would you change from the first fight? Nothing. If you're Islam's coach, be like, okay, what I would change is we know he's tough as hell. We know he's fast as hell. We also know you can take him down when you stick with it. I think Islam is going to be 100% all in on the wrestling. I don't think he's going to give Volkanovski the opportunities that he gave him in the last fight. I think he's going to be much more prepared here. Obviously, he was preparing for Charles, not Volkanovski, but his very last fight was Volkanovski in a fight that was way too close. I think that went to his head. I think he's going to be very well prepared, ready to go. Short notice, stepping up against the current champion of the higher weight class. Not going to work out for Alexander Volkanovski. I like Islam to win. And honestly, I think he's a discount right now. He's only minus 170. He already won this fight. He's the bigger guy, full camp guy. I think that's a discount. I think he's safe to parlay, and I think he's probably good up to minus 220, minus 250 even. Pretty confident in Islam to win this fight, but I am looking forward to watching it. Guys, don't forget, I will send you $50. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. Let me send you that money. All you need to do is use our link. If you use the link, I'm going to get paid from the affiliates, and then I'm going to take some of that money, and I'm going to give it right back to you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. I will send you $50. You can use that money to become a premium member. That will unlock all the tools, all the information, and everything that you need, like the line movement tracker, like the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, like the courses. Teach a man to fish. Click on more in the menu and then courses, and we have a course that'll walk you through exactly what DraftKings Fantasy is. We have other courses in the pipeline that we will be rolling out. Every couple of months, we'll roll out a different course. WeWantPicks.com, click become a member. It's only $10 a month. You're also going to get other people. It's not just me. It's not just Jacob. You're going to get Running Mouth MMA. There's 3 of them. They've got the 2 personalities on camera, and they have the producer, and the 3 of them have all their picks and their bets listed for every single card. You're going to get Artem. Artem breaks down PFL. Artem breaks down Bellator. And Artem breaks down UFC. You're going to get his write-ups. You're going to get his picks. You're going to get his bets. You're going to get the pick doctor. This guy's developed an AI. It is an artificial intelligence that picks fights based solely off of recorded fight data. And don't forget, you're going to get the safety parlay. This is a point of pride for me. I'm very proud of the safety parlay. In one of the most volatile sports to bet on, where one punch can change everything, we have managed to, in 11 months, put up 19 units of profit. And that means 1.78 units of net profit only from the safety parlay per month. I'm proud of it. You can unlock that. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member at the top. It is only $10 a month.